Developing critical thinking, a path to personal and professional growth. Critical thinking is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It's the key to making better decisions, solving problems efficiently, and thriving in all areas of life. Whether you're a student, professional, or someone striving for self-improvement, mastering this skill will empower you to achieve your goals and build resilience in the face of challenges. This guide will take you through the essentials of critical thinking, teaching you to recognize biases, challenge assumptions, engage with diverse perspectives, and strengthen your mental approach. It's more than just a skill. It's a transformative way of thinking that can change your life. Chapter 1. Introduction to Critical Thinking. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly navigate challenges while others struggle with basic decisions? The answer often lies in critical thinking, the ability to approach problems logically, assess situations objectively, and make informed decisions. Critical thinking isn't about being argumentative or dismissing other ideas. Instead, it involves analyzing, evaluating, and synthesizing information to form reasoned judgments. It's about stepping back from your immediate reactions and considering multiple perspectives before deciding. Many believe critical thinking is an innate talent, but this couldn't be further from the truth. It's a skill that can be developed with practice. Like a muscle, the more you work on it, the stronger it becomes. As you cultivate this skill, you'll notice improvements in how you solve problems, handle uncertainty, and make decisions that align with your values. In your personal life, critical thinking helps strengthen relationships by improving communication and empathy. It enables you to understand different viewpoints, resolve conflicts, and make decisions based on shared understanding. Professionally, it's a highly sought-after skill, setting leaders and innovators apart. This book will guide you through mastering critical thinking by exploring its principles, challenges, and practical applications. The journey ahead will help you transform not just how you think, but how you approach life itself. Chapter 2. Understanding your thought patterns. Your mind is like an unexplored map filled with treasures of insight and creativity, and pitfalls of bias and misconceptions. To navigate this terrain effectively, you must first understand your own thought patterns. This is where critical thinking begins with self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to observe your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors objectively. It allows you to recognize patterns in your thinking, identify strengths and weaknesses, and understand how your experiences and beliefs shape your perspective. A powerful way to develop self-awareness is through mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, you can observe your thoughts and feelings in the present moment without judgment. For example, take a few minutes each day to sit quietly and pay attention to your thoughts. Over time, you'll begin to notice recurring themes, triggers, and thought patterns. Another helpful tool is reflective journaling. Writing down your thoughts, experiences, and reactions creates a record of your inner world. Over time, this record can reveal patterns in your decision-making, emotional responses, and underlying beliefs. You might notice that you tend to overreact in certain situations or cling to assumptions that may not hold up to scrutiny. Self-awareness also involves confronting uncomfortable truths, such as biases, We all have cognitive biases, mental shortcuts that influence our thinking and lead to irrational judgments. For instance, confirmation bias makes us favor information that aligns with our beliefs, while availability bias causes us to overestimate the likelihood of memorable events. Acknowledging these biases is crucial for growth. By understanding them, you can begin to counteract their influence on your decisions and actions. Seeking feedback from others can help too. Trusted friends or colleagues can offer perspectives you might miss, providing valuable insights into your thought patterns. Chapter 3. The Fundamentals of Critical Thinking. Critical thinking is like being an explorer navigating uncharted terrain. To succeed, you need the right tools and a map. The two main tools of critical thinking are logical reasoning and evidence-based thinking. Logical reasoning is the backbone of critical thinking. It's about drawing sound conclusions based on evidence. For example, consider the statement, "All mammals breathe air. A dolphin is a mammal. Therefore, a dolphin breathes air." This deductive reasoning starts with general facts and moves to a specific conclusion. Logical reasoning also helps identify flaws in arguments, known as logical fallacies. Some common fallacies include ad hominem, attacking the person instead of addressing their argument; false dichotomy, presenting only two options when more exist; slippery slope, assuming one action will lead to a chain of events without evidence. Recognizing these fallacies makes you better at analyzing arguments and constructing your own. Evidence-based thinking, on the other hand, focuses on using reliable data to form conclusions. Instead of relying on personal beliefs or anecdotes, it requires you to seek out credible sources, evaluate their validity, and remain open to changing your mind when presented with new evidence. Cultivating an evidence-based mindset requires curiosity, open-mindedness, and intellectual humility. These qualities drive you to ask questions, explore alternative perspectives, and admit when you're wrong. Together, they form the foundation of a critical thinking mindset. Developing this mindset isn't always easy. It involves stepping outside your comfort zone and confronting deeply held beliefs. However, the rewards are immense. Improved decision-making, better problem-solving, and meaningful engagement with diverse perspectives. Chapter 4. Overcoming Cognitive Biases. Imagine playing chess without realizing half your pieces are missing. This is what cognitive biases do. They limit your thinking by hiding important pieces of information. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts that help us process information quickly, but often lead to errors. For example, confirmation bias, seeking out information that supports your beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. Anchoring bias, relying too heavily on the first piece of information you receive. Overconfidence bias, overestimating your abilities or knowledge. These biases are not flaws, but natural tendencies of the brain. The challenge lies in recognizing and managing them. To overcome biases, start by questioning your assumptions. For instance, if you believe a particular method always works, ask yourself, what evidence supports this? Could there be exceptions? Engaging with diverse perspectives is another way to challenge biases. When you actively seek out opinions that differ from your own, you're forced to reevaluate your assumptions and consider alternative viewpoints. Feedback is also valuable. Asking others for their honest opinions about your decisions can reveal blind spots you didn't know existed. Most importantly, embrace discomfort. Confronting biases and long-held beliefs can be challenging, but this discomfort signals growth. By acknowledging and addressing biases, you'll strengthen your critical thinking skills and become more adaptable in complex situations. Chapter 5. Applying critical thinking in daily life. Critical thinking isn't just for solving big problems or making important decisions. It's a skill you can use every day. In personal relationships, critical thinking helps you communicate effectively, understand different viewpoints, and resolve conflicts. For example, if you and a friend disagree, instead of reacting emotionally, you can analyze the situation objectively to find common ground. Professionally, critical thinking enables you to evaluate information, propose innovative solutions, and make sound decisions. Employers value this skill because it drives creativity and leadership. To practice critical thinking daily. 1. Ask questions. When faced with a problem, don't accept the first solution. Ask why, how, and what else. 2. Evaluate sources. Don't believe everything you read or hear. Check the credibility of the information and its source. 3. Think ahead. Consider the long-term effects of your decisions. What are the potential risks and benefits? By incorporating these habits into your routine, critical thinking will become second nature. Conclusion: the journey to growth, critical thinking, is more than a skill. It's a way of approaching life with clarity, curiosity, and purpose. By developing this ability, you can navigate challenges, make informed decisions, and achieve your goals. As you continue this journey, remember that critical thinking is not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and being open to learning. The process may be challenging at times, but the rewards are worth it. Are you ready to unlock your potential and transform the way you think? Start today by questioning assumptions, embracing diverse perspectives, and practicing self-awareness. With time and effort, you'll find yourself thriving in all aspects of life. Subscribe to Audiobook Official for more tips on self-improvement, decision-making, and personal growth. Activate notifications so you don't miss any updates. Understanding bias and overcoming cognitive barriers. Bias refers to the tendency of our minds to favor certain information over others based on pre-existing beliefs or experiences. It influences how we search for, interpret, and recall information. In simple terms, bias is why we quickly accept evidence that supports what we already think is true and dismiss or ignore evidence that contradicts our views. It's not always something we consciously choose, but a natural, often automatic, reaction. It's a way the mind tries to make sense of a complex world, but it can distort our thinking and decision-making. The role of bias in decision-making. To better understand how bias works, consider the example of someone who believes a certain diet is the best for health. They may enthusiastically share articles, studies, or personal success stories that align with their belief. But when presented with research that challenges their viewpoint, they may dismiss it without giving it a fair evaluation. Instead of carefully considering the evidence, they focus only on what supports their point of view. This is an example of what psychologists call confirmation bias. We are naturally inclined to search for and interpret information in ways that confirm what we already believe. One of the most powerful ways to deal with bias is to recognize it. Awareness is the first step in overcoming it. Without recognizing bias, it's easy to become trapped in a cycle of reinforcing what we already think, which limits our ability to grow and learn. But understanding that bias exists is just the beginning. We need to develop strategies to combat its influence. Common biases. One such bias is the anchoring effect. This occurs when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we come across when making decisions. It can distort our judgment, especially when the first piece of information is arbitrary. A common example of this is during negotiations. If the initial price of a car is set at a high number, even if it's not based on reality, it can influence the buyer's perception of what a fair price should be. They may feel that the final price is reasonable, even if it is still higher than what they would have paid had they not been anchored by the first figure. Another common bias is the availability heuristic. This bias leads us to overestimate the likelihood of events based on how easily we can recall examples from memory. For instance, people tend to fear plane crashes more than car accidents, despite the fact that statistically, car accidents are far more common and dangerous. The availability heuristic makes us think that because we've heard about or seen plane crashes in the media, they are more likely to happen, even though the numbers tell a different story. There are many other biases that shape the way we think. The halo effect, for example, makes us judge a person or thing as a whole based on one positive trait we observe. If someone is friendly, we might assume they're also competent, even if there's no evidence to suggest that. The status quo bias makes us prefer things to stay the same, resisting change even when it might be beneficial. Recognizing these biases is important because they help us identify when our thinking is being distorted by factors beyond logic or reason. Strategies for overcoming bias. Once we recognize our biases, the next step is to address them. Awareness alone isn't enough. We need actionable strategies to counteract the impact of bias on our decisions. One of the most powerful strategies is to actively seek out information that challenges our beliefs. This doesn't mean we have to change our views on every issue, but it encourages us to remain open-minded and consider alternative perspectives. Let's say you're deeply convinced that a particular political candidate is the best choice for a certain office. Instead of only consuming news and opinions that support this candidate, seek out information that presents opposing viewpoints. Try to understand the reasoning behind different perspectives and explore why others might believe something different. Doing this can help you broaden your understanding of an issue and make a more informed decision. It can also be helpful to engage in respectful debates with others who hold different beliefs. The goal of these conversations shouldn't be to win arguments, but to exchange ideas, learn from one another, and challenge each other's thinking. We should enter these discussions with the mindset that our goal is to understand, not to prove someone else wrong. Another strategy for overcoming bias is mental flexibility. This involves deliberately considering alternative explanations or outcomes for a given situation. When faced with a problem or a decision, pause and ask yourself, what other possibilities am I not considering? This simple question can help you shift your mindset and see things from a new perspective. It can also help you avoid jumping to conclusions too quickly and give you the chance to explore other angles. A great way to cultivate mental flexibility is to develop the habit of seeking diverse perspectives. When making important decisions, consult people who come from different backgrounds, have different experiences, or possess expertise in areas outside your own. These individuals can help you uncover blind spots in your thinking and help you see the bigger picture. It's also crucial to practice intellectual humility. This means recognizing that your knowledge is limited and being willing to learn from others. Intellectual humility makes it easier to admit when we're wrong and to adjust our beliefs in response to new evidence. Changing your mind shouldn't be seen as a weakness. In fact, it's a sign of growth, intellectual maturity, and the ability to think critically. The discomfort of challenging biases as we work to overcome biases, we often face internal resistance. Our biases are deeply ingrained, and challenging them can feel uncomfortable or even threatening. We naturally want to protect our existing beliefs because they provide a sense of security and certainty. However, this discomfort is a clear sign that we are pushing beyond our mental comfort zones, which is where true personal growth occurs. When you feel uncomfortable, it means you're learning and expanding your mental horizons. Challenging your biases is not about feeling bad or guilty for having them. It's about recognizing the power they hold over your thinking and making a conscious effort to look beyond them. Over time, you'll become more skilled at identifying biases and overcoming them, ultimately improving your decision-making, problem-solving, and critical thinking abilities. By the end of this chapter, you should have a solid understanding of the most common cognitive biases and ways to counteract them. You'll also have developed the mental flexibility and open-mindedness necessary to step outside your usual patterns of thinking. But recognizing biases and thinking flexibly are only part of the critical thinking toolkit. To truly master these skills, you need to apply them to real-world challenges where you can put your knowledge to the test. Problem-solving techniques. In the next chapter, we'll dive into effective problem-solving techniques. Imagine standing before a complex knot that seems impossible to untangle. This knot represents the kinds of challenges we face in life: complicated, messy, and seemingly unsolvable. But with the right techniques, we can unravel even the most difficult problems. The first step in problem solving is to define the problem clearly. Often, what seems like a single problem is actually a collection of smaller, interconnected issues. By breaking down the larger problem into smaller components, you can start to see potential solutions more clearly. This process is known as problem decomposition. It's similar to pulling apart the threads of a tangled knot. Once you understand the individual parts, the solution becomes more apparent. Once you've identified the core components of the problem, the next step is to gather information. Many people rush to solve problems without fully understanding them, which leads to ineffective solutions. Cast a wide net in your information gathering. Talk to experts, explore different viewpoints, and look for patterns that might reveal the root causes of the problem. Now that you have a clear understanding of the problem, it's time to generate potential solutions. This is where creativity comes into play. Brainstorming is a powerful technique for this phase. The key to effective brainstorming is to suspend judgment at first and let ideas flow freely. Don't censor yourself. Some of the most innovative solutions come from ideas that initially seem strange or impractical. Once you have a list of potential solutions, the next step is to evaluate them. This is where your critical thinking skills really shine. Look at the pros and cons of each solution, assess their feasibility, and consider potential outcomes and unintended consequences. This stage requires careful thought and objectivity, so set aside any personal biases or preferences. After evaluating the solutions, select the one that seems the most promising and develop an implementation plan. Break the solution down into manageable steps and assign responsibilities if working with a team. Set clear timelines and keep track of progress. But remember, problem solving doesn't end once the solution is in place. It's important to monitor the results and be ready to make adjustments if necessary. One of the most powerful techniques in problem solving is reframing. Sometimes the way we define a problem can limit our ability to solve it. By looking at the problem from different angles or perspectives, we might discover new solutions we hadn't considered before. Overcoming obstacles in problem solving. As you practice problem solving, you'll likely encounter obstacles. It's natural to feel stuck, overwhelmed, or frustrated at times. When this happens, remember that these feelings are a normal part of the process. Take a step back, give yourself some mental space, and return to the problem with a fresh perspective. Often, the solution becomes clear when you stop trying to force it and give your mind the chance to think creatively. By the end of this chapter, you should have a strong toolkit for solving complex problems. You'll understand the importance of defining the problem, gathering information, generating solutions, and evaluating them carefully. But effective problem solving is just one part of the critical thinking process. To truly excel, you also need to learn how to analyze information and arguments effectively. In the next chapter, we'll explore the art of critical analysis, equipping you with the tools you need to evaluate information and make well-reasoned decisions. Ready to take the next step? Understanding different perspectives can lead to better solutions for complex problems, helping us see things from angles we might not have considered before. Imagine it like adding more colors to a painter's palette. The more colors you have, the more vibrant and detailed your picture of the world becomes. But embracing different viewpoints can be challenging. It means stepping out of your comfort zone and confronting ideas that may not align with your deeply held beliefs. This discomfort, although unsettling at times, often sparks growth and insight. When we expose ourselves to diverse perspectives, we gain the ability to think more critically and creatively. One of the most effective ways to do this is by deliberately seeking information that challenges your current viewpoint. For example, If you tend to lean toward liberal views, try reading publications or articles with conservative perspectives, and vice versa. If you're a scientist, consider exploring literature in the humanities. The goal isn't necessarily to change your mind on every issue, but to understand where others are coming from, why they hold certain views, and what their reasoning is behind those opinions. It's important to practice active listening when engaging with these different viewpoints. Active listening means focusing entirely on the speaker, not just hearing their words, but also trying to understand their underlying motivations and emotions. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, make an effort to truly hear what the other person is saying. Ask yourself, what experiences have influenced their perspective? What values or assumptions are shaping their opinions? By engaging in this way, you build a deeper understanding of the perspectives being shared. One key aspect of understanding different viewpoints is empathy. Empathy allows us to see the world through someone else's eyes, even if we don't agree with their conclusions. It's about recognizing that most people, no matter their beliefs, are trying to do what they believe is right, based on their experiences and understanding of the world. This sense of shared humanity is essential in building connections with others, even when there are significant disagreements. A powerful tool for strengthening your understanding of diverse perspectives is the technique of steelmanning. This approach is the opposite of straw manning, which involves attacking a weak or distorted version of someone's argument. Instead, steelmanning encourages you to present the strongest, most compelling version of someone else's viewpoint, even if you ultimately disagree with it. By doing this, you ensure that you're engaging with the most robust version of the argument, which not only improves your understanding, but also strengthens your own critical thinking. You're forced to grapple with a well-reasoned perspective, which helps refine your ability to think critically and assess different viewpoints. As you become more skilled at engaging with diverse perspectives, you'll find that decision-making becomes both more difficult and more rewarding. You'll have a greater number of options to consider, and you'll be able to understand the potential consequences of each choice more clearly. One effective technique for incorporating multiple perspectives into decision-making is playing the devil's advocate. This means intentionally arguing against your preferred choice or assigning someone else to present a different viewpoint. Doing so can help uncover flaws in your thinking, leading to more robust and well-thought-out decisions. However, engaging with diverse perspectives doesn't mean abandoning your own values or beliefs. It's not about reaching a bland, watered-down consensus where all opinions are treated as equally valid. The goal is to enrich your understanding, challenge your assumptions, and refine your thinking. By actively listening, building empathy, and considering a variety of perspectives, you can make more thoughtful and well-reasoned decisions. Let's now turn our focus to effective decision-making strategies. Making decisions can be difficult, especially when faced with uncertainty. At the heart of good decision-making is understanding that it's a process, not just a single moment of choice. It starts with defining the decision clearly and gathering as much relevant information as possible. This may seem obvious, but many poor decisions stem from not framing the problem properly or failing to gather enough data. Before making any decision, take the time to understand the full scope of the issue and ensure that you've collected as much relevant information as you can. Once you've gathered the information, the next step is to evaluate your options. Critical thinking plays a crucial role at this stage. It's important to consider the potential outcomes of each option, both in the short term and the long term. What are the risks and benefits of each choice? How do they align with your goals and values? Don't just focus on the most obvious options. Think creatively and consider alternatives that may not be immediately apparent. A useful tool for evaluating options is the decision matrix. This method involves listing the available options and the criteria that are most important for your decision. You then score each option according to these criteria. The decision matrix helps you compare your choices objectively, making it easier to see which option best meets your needs. While logical analysis is important, decision-making is not just about the facts and figures. Intuition also plays a role in decision-making, especially when you're faced with incomplete information. Intuition is the ability to make decisions based on patterns and experiences, often subconsciously. While it's important to consider facts and data, it's also important to trust your instincts and integrate them into your decision-making process. The key is to strike a balance between logic and intuition. Another important part of decision-making is managing uncertainty. Often, we don't have all the information we'd like, and the future is unpredictable. One way to deal with this uncertainty is through scenario planning. This involves imagining different possible futures and considering how your decision might play out in each scenario. Doing so can help you spot potential risks and opportunities that you might otherwise overlook. It's also important to be aware of common decision-making pitfalls. One of these is analysis paralysis, which happens when you get so caught up in gathering information and analyzing options that you never actually make a decision. In many cases, it's better to make a timely decision than to keep searching for more perfect information. Another pitfall is groupthink, where a group of people agree with each other simply to avoid conflict. This can lead to irrational or poor decisions. To counteract groupthink, encourage dissenting opinions and consider appointing a devil's advocate to challenge the group's assumptions. When you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, there are several techniques you can use to help you make a decision. One such method is the 5 Whs technique, which involves repeatedly asking why to get to the root cause of the problem. Another technique is the Eisenhower matrix, which helps you prioritize decisions based on their importance and urgency. Sometimes, simply reframing the problem can lead to new insights and help you move forward. It's important to remember that the goal of these decision-making strategies is not to eliminate all risk or uncertainty from the process. Rather, the aim is to help you make informed, well-reasoned choices that align with your goals and values. Even the best decision-making process will not eliminate uncertainty, but it can provide the tools to help you feel more confident in your choices and more adaptable as new information becomes available. As we wrap up this section on decision-making, it's important to recognize that this is just one piece of the puzzle. Effective decision-making is a vital skill, but to truly thrive in a complex world, we need to develop mental resilience. This is the ability to adapt, learn, and grow in the face of adversity and setbacks. In the next chapter, we'll dive into strategies for building mental resilience, which will equip you with the tools to face challenges with confidence and turn setbacks into opportunities for growth. Mental resilience is essential for coping with the challenges life throws at us. It's the ability to stay strong, adapt to change, and bounce back from difficult situations. By building emotional intelligence, practicing mindfulness, and maintaining a growth mindset, we can enhance our resilience and become better decision makers in the process.